Last month, I took Elizabeth and the kids to see James Taylor in concert. Let me start that over. Last month, I took Elizabeth to see Lionel Richie in concert. And it was very romantic, and he was a lot of fun. And then about a week later, I saw some discount tickets to see James Taylor, and I said to Elizabeth, "So, is it time? Do we go?" And she went, "Yeah, I guess we've put it off long enough." And that made sense, because I've seen fire and I've seen rain. But I never thought that I'd see sweet baby James. And the seats were so cheap that I realized that rather than scramble for childcare at the last minute, we could just bring the kids and I would babysit them myself during the show. You know, there are certain questions that a parent should expect, like what existed before the universe? And if the world is turning, how come we don't fall off? But I never, in all of my wild imagination, never envisioned myself having to answer the question, who is James Taylor? I don't know. He's like Jackson Browne with training wheels. Like Leonard Cohen with water wings. This is where you learn to swim in the pool of singer-songwriters. I take my kids to rock concerts because that's my religion. Ritualistic howling to rock and roll, or in this case, meowing to mellow folk music. A concert is a good chance to teach an essential lesson of parenthood. Life is about experience, not about comfort. If you want to be comfortable, you can go to the concert, get a hot dog for your belly, and a drink for your thirst, and go use the potty, and by the time you've stood in those 3 lines, the show is over. Or you can cowboy up, stay on your feet, shout your head off, live the experience, and then go home and be comfortable in your sleep. The only part of a concert that's supposed to be comfortable is your shoes. It doesn't matter how you look, unless your fashion choices make me late, in which case we've got a serious problem. Leaving home at 6, getting back at 12, we actually managed to do the full checklist of a family road trip vacation. The whiny kids, the car snacks that spill, fiddling with the knobs and dials, the air conditioning and windows to keep mommy's volcano from erupting, the stereo to keep daddy's power plant from atomic meltdown. We skipped the part about don't make me turn this car around, since it would have brought us back to the same question, who is James Taylor? Now I know the answer. He is everything except a video game, which is what you've done with every unsupervised second of this summer, so pipe down, we're doing this. There's an element to a musical concert performance that you cannot get from a recording. You've got your analog record and your digital CD and your remastered streaming, whatever, but none of the audio recording gets the face. Particularly the eyebrows, which it turns out are a pretty important part of the song. In the concert setting, you can read lips, and that's a pretty good way to finally figure out that one missing lyric. But more important, you can read the person's face, and the movement of their eyebrows add this other dimension to the story that's being told. Oh, now I get that line. It's inquisitive. I'd always thought it was just sensitive. And you know, James Taylor has always had fantastic eyebrows. And as his audiences have lost some of their distance vision, his hairline has adapted by receding to make it easier to read his eyebrows from farther away. I don't know if any of you noticed this. Eyebrows are the unsung heroes of communication, the hardworking midwives of understanding. Mouths and ears can transfer facts, but communication is more than information. It's also affirmation, It's also subjugation. Conversation is a negotiation of relative social position. Maybe you take turns being the important speaker. Or maybe one person dominates by doing all of the talk, or dominates by saying, well, and making the other person spill their guts. That's an interrogation. Defenestration. That's not part of this message. I just put it in there in case anyone was getting hypnotized by all these words that rhyme with Asian. Anyway, regardless of the words that we speak, it's the eyebrows that express whether it's affirmation, domination, alienation, whatever. With interrogation, you don't have to speak at all. You just jut one eyebrow up like this, and they'll tell you everything. As a matter of fact, I think we come out of many interactions with a clearer recollection of someone's eyebrow expressions than our memory of the words that were actually said. I thought that talk went well. We really connected. That means the other person's eyebrows consented, and you can assume that that means they agreed with all of your political opinions. Doubtful. Matter of fact, when I hear someone say, I thought that talk went really well, my eyebrow reflexively hops up like this. I can't help it. My youngest son has become obsessed with this video game. Not just playing it, which is trying not to get caught by animatronic monsters, but also the whole mythos of the monsters' individual backstories and motivations. And he has become concerned, even alarmed, that I might not understand the danger that these monsters pose while I worry about a zillion other silly things. And that as an old-fashioned dad, I might not be able to empathize with these monsters and why they need to keep chasing his character around. I'll confess, I come from the era of Pac-Man, where the ghosts chased this yellow circle in a maze, and you didn't have to wonder about the green ghost's childhood trauma or the pink ghost's repressed identity. You just ran from them, or swam or flew, or whatever Pac-Man's locomotion was. But that was the 1980s, and Pac-Man was an insensitive pack addict. Today's video games are different. So William tells me all this stuff, and I nod. And I remind myself that when I was a kid, memorizing fictional facts about comic book superheroes helped my brain to later retain fictional facts about Shakespeare characters and systematic theology. So maybe this video game can do that for him. The stuff he's learning in school about frogs and fractions and Franklin Roosevelt, the brain can't really retain that stuff because it's not chasing you around trying to eat you. But being stalked by pixelated predators, that is a pressing concern with an important message. People are going to try to hurt you, not because of anything you did, but because someone hurt them in the past, and that person is not within convenient reach right now. Anyway, so he rattles off all this stuff for which my brain has no file folder. It's all just straight into the recycle bin. And I nod politely and I grunt, while squinting in a way that conveys, I'm pondering this information. Because I need to non-verbally communicate, this is important to you, and you are important to me. And that, you are important to me, is perhaps the most important message that we can communicate. But it can't come from your mouth. It has to come from your face while the other person is speaking. To communicate, you are important to me. Maybe that's what eyebrows are for. And by eyebrows, I don't mean this little narrow strip of fur. I mean, really, the nakedness of the human face all around the eyes, the absence of fur that emphasizes the presence of these little tufts. Because eyebrows can say things like, I am listening. I am concerned. I am confused. Please tell me more. And those are all ways of saying, you and what's important to you are important to me. And to make that point even clearer, eyebrows can express all of that without interrupting. Elizabeth, my wife, has tiny eyebrows, naturally tiny, not plucked, and a high forehead. And something about her face seems to communicate to strangers. Tell me your problems, especially the really embarrassing ones that you would keep a secret from a bartender and a priest. And someone asked me recently about how she chose to become a primary care physician. And I said, she didn't choose that. People have always come up and told them what's wrong with their body. Even when she was a teenage clerk at a video store, people would come up and say, well, I've got this pain right here that kind of flares up whenever I whatever. And she'd say, well, cut down on the soft drinks, and instead of renting this movie, you should go take a walk. So now she's the doctor, and it's the same thing, except she's got a prescription pad. So someone comes up and says, my such and such hurts when I such and such. And she says, yeah, cut down on the soft drinks and take a long walk. And they say, well, isn't there a pill that could do the same thing? And she says, oh, right, I'm also canceling 6 of your 39 prescriptions. And then their face is sad. And then her face non-verbally expresses, your problems are important to me. That's why I'm canceling the medications that help you ignore your problems. So your problems can also become important to you. See, that's not a referral. If anybody here is like, oh yeah, you know what, I think I would like for that guy's wife to be my doctor. Not necessarily, think about it first. Not necessarily. But they know she cares. And in many cases, they do feel better. And she can do this with her tiny eyebrows. Eyebrows that you can't even see on a Zoom screen. You really have to be there in person. The human face. It's all of these sensory organs kind of jumbled together. It's a total Picasso roll of the dice how they're arranged. But I think having the eyes above the mouth was a great idea, since otherwise we would need much bigger eyebrows to keep food from falling into our eyes. As it is, men grow mustaches to keep tears from flowing into their food. Maybe that's how evolution encourages social cohesion. Like if you alienate the tribe, you'll need this big mustache, or the food you eat alone will be salted with bitter tears. You don't even have to shower the people you love with fancy words. You just use your eyebrows to show them you care. You see, shower the people, I got sidetracked, but don't worry, I'm definitely getting back to that James Taylor story. My decision to babysit the kids myself during this concert turned out as stupidly as it sounds. I got jabbed in the ribs every 20 seconds. Is it almost over? Jabbed in stereo, Malcolm on one side and William on the other. The good news is, at least it wasn't a Jackson Browne concert, because if you poke me during a Jackson Browne concert, you're going to lose that finger. And also, when it's all said and done, at least we hadn't wasted all of that time and energy dragging the kids to see the Grand Canyon. Look, kids, the Grand Canyon. There's nothing here. I know, it's the world's biggest nothing. Is it almost over? Not for another few billion years. This is geology. Having done some advanced research about Taylor's recent set lists, I had decided that we didn't have to stay for the whole thing. We would leave after he sang a song called Your Smiling Face. And it just turned out that that was his second to last song. But before singing it, he smiled at us, and we smiled at him, because that's what humans do. It's part of our nonverbal communication. When a kindly, gentle, elderly fellow smiles at you, it's contagious. The smile gets shared. And looking out at all of these grinning faces, he then sang, "Whenever I see your smiling face, I have to smile myself because I love you." And that moment was deeper than the Grand Canyon. And in that shared moment, the whole hectic family road trip came together. And it made sense, and it was good. Thank you.